Entrevista al Dr. Shannon Doak. Él es un Educational Technologist, un tecnólogo educativo de Hawái. Él nos hablará sobre el sistema educativo, enfatizando las TICs, las tecnologías de información y comunicación, en la formación de los estudiantes. Well, now we have the opportunity to talk with Dr. Shannon Doak. He's an educational technologist. His job or work is that he integrates technology with innovative practices. So he knows a lot about that. He is working in his country. He's from Hawaii, and he has a lot of knowledge. And he is pleased to share with us all the information that he knows, because he is currently working on all this stuff, and we need to pay attention to all what he's going to tell us. Okay, please, Dr. Shannon.
Hi, how are you today?
Yeah, Dr. Shannon, fine.
Okay. So, do you have any specific questions you'd like to ask, or should I just talk about education in general?
Okay, so first of all, we can talk in general about education and what are the key aspects of education, and after that we can pass to the presentation that I prepared in order to talk about that.
Great. Okay. So, education for me has always been an important aspect of my life. I consider myself a lifelong learner, and I think that that's an important aspect for the 21st century and beyond. It's no longer, when I was in school, we memorized a lot of facts, and we then, regurgitated that on tests, and then we were considered knowledgeable because we could, repeat the facts that we memorized. I don't think that that is enough anymore. I think that a lot of the educational systems today focus on a lot of this memorization and regurgitation of information, and they don't help students learn how to think. And I think learning how to ask important questions, how to think, how to communicate, how to collaborate, how to critically think about things, and how to think kind of computationally and solve problems are the skills that are going to be necessary, because when we enter the society, when our students enter society, their jobs that they're going to have probably don't exist right now. I know my job when I was in school didn't exist. There was no such thing as an educational technologist. So that's a new job that happened. So I think education, we need to make a shift. Right now, we're very focused on content. And content, while is important, it's not what's going to help our students the most when they become a part of society. So I think that's one area where we might need to shift our focus in schools, that away from content. Content, not that the curriculum is bad, we still need it. But that the focus is that it's a vehicle. It's not the purpose of education. Content, curriculum is a vehicle for learning how to learn. And once we can learn the skills of learning, we're preparing our students for a world of unknowns, because they're going to get things thrown at them, problems that we could not prepare for them, because we don't know what kind of problems they're going to solve. So they get a new problem, they know how to learn, they're going to be able to find resources, they're going to have to learn how to take multiple resources, synthesize them, analyze them, communicate with others, collaborate with other people on a team to solve a problem. And that will be their life, because we don't know what they're going to be doing. But we need to prepare them to be relevant in the future by empowering them today, by being a part of a process of learning, a process of doing. So that's, I think, how education should probably move forward. Right now, I think there's a lot of places in the world where it doesn't work that way. I don't know about Peru, but I know in Hawaii, we still, in our public education, even in some of our private schools, we're not preparing them for the future, I don't think, well enough. I think a lot of kids will enter society ill-equipped, maybe even enter university not really. We might prepare them well for university, but I think we need to prepare them for life. That's what I think.
Okay, so well, now we're going to share a presentation in order to have some ideas about what we're talking about. So this is the presentation. It starts with the education system, a 360 degrees view. So here we organized all the problems in three aspects. The first is the public and private education. It's divided in that we lack of we don't wake up the real capacity of the students. We don't invest enough.
Correct.
And that we just focus more on the theoretical part than the practical aspects. The second part is about that we have to form a person. So we need to, in this case, focus on the role of parents, because we are raising a child. We have to raise in a good way. Yep. And we need to talk about what I want to be in life. In this case, what the students are going to study, maybe the profession that he or she is going to develop in the future, in this case, university, and about the multiple intelligence. And the last part is about the anachronistic. It's divided in the lifelong learning, as you told us. I want that you can explain us about the homework. For example, in your country, how is the homework? In that teachers make a lot of homework or not too much. I want you to explain us about the homework aspects, because here in Peru, I can tell you that teachers make a lot of homework for their students, but the students go to their homes and the homework is due by the parents. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So also we need to talk about the creativity that we need to promote. We need to enhance all the creativity aspect in our students, because this is too vital. And how we can motivate students, how we can motivate, in this case, how teachers can motivate students. I want you to tell us about the ICT, the information and communication technologies, about how is your infrastructure, about the platforms that maybe you can use, all related about the online education, and what is the role of teachers in this online education.
Sure.
Okay, please.
So let me start with the homework. Homework is one of these subjects that has been debated for many, many, many years. There's lots of scientific peer-reviewed articles which have proven that homework is of no use, and that it doesn't actually impact student learning. I think it's more complicated than most of these peer review articles and scientific studies have said, because I think homework is important, but I think the way that we've been using homework is wrong. Homework is basically filler. They give you worksheets or they give you this, and we can't judge effectiveness of homework, because just like a classroom is made up of a whole bunch of different people with different backgrounds, different social economic situations, all of this is the same at home. And if the student is coming from a family that may have maybe a single parent who's working all the time, when you assign homework, if it's not the right kind of homework, and it requires them to use their brain too much and they can't get it, and then they don't have the support at home from mom or dad because mom and dad are working, then all it does is it creates anxiety into the child. And that's not helping them want to learn. In fact, it makes them want to give up. So if homework is used, it's not the amount of homework that I think is important. I think it's about using homework in the right way. And I think there's some subjects, say for example, learning a new language. My wife is Chinese. She's a Chinese as a second language teacher, and she assigns homework. And why? Because you cannot learn Chinese without, especially the writing, without practicing it, because it's a repetitive thing you have to do. It's not, like an Indo-European language with an alphabetical language. It's characters. So you have to write them over and over and over again in order to help yourself memorize. So I think homework is not like a clear, is it good or is it bad? Is there too much or is there too little? I think we just need to, as educators, and as students, we all have different responsibilities in our in our lifelong learning path. Right now, students need to think of homework as something that's, even though it may not help them learn, it depends on their attitude. If they take the approach to, I'm going to learn, I want to do this homework because it's a part of my learning process, and they take responsibility for that, then it will have a greater impact on their learning. It all comes down to their attitude. Teachers, if they take homework and they assign more meaningful homework, not just like papers, let's just do this, let's do 100 math problems. That's not useful. Maybe you have the students do something at home. They have to go measure something, or they have to, bake, or they have to do something that's an application of math, that kind of homework. Or maybe you take that flipped model where you use the homework time to introduce new concepts. And then when the child comes back to class, then the students are there and the teacher's there, and then they start doing meaningful work with the content. They learn the content at home. So it depends on how you want to use it. But I think we definitely need to rethink homework as an educational system all over the world. And we need to also change how we use it, because it's definitely not being as impactful as it can be. That's my thoughts on homework. Creativity is huge. This is, I think, one of the things that is one of the main skills that the 21st century and beyond are going to require. If you talk to Fortune 500 companies in America, Google, Apple, Facebook, all of these big companies, they're not looking for people who can get good grades. They could care less about that. They want people who are creative, that think outside the box, that can problem solve, that can work with other people, be collaborative, that can communicate clearly with other people. They don't care what kind of grade you got in school. They want to know, how are you going to apply your skills, whatever you're offering, to a team in order to solve a problem. So creativity is part of that. Creativity allows you to think divergently. It allows you to think outside the norm and to look at problems from a different viewpoint. And you can use that creativity to help solve major problems. I'm sure you're aware of that with your engineering background. You can't just look at things from one side, and you got to look at, creatively. Maybe take a look like biomimicry, where we mimic something in nature. And we go, oh, look at that, how that bird is doing that. Maybe we could use that in our own problem solving, and creativity is a part of that process. So creativity is huge. And I think we need to focus more on that in school, because that's going to help prepare our students for the 21st century. I also think that if we have things that focus more on creativity, the motivational aspect of language or of learning is going to go up. We sit in schools and the kids are sitting there and the teacher's up there talking and writing things on the board. Well, of course they're not going to be motivated. My wife just attended a great online presentation for Chinese language learning, and one of the presenters there was saying that if you get done with class and you feel super tired and your students are excited and energetic, that means you did too much, because it's the person who feels the most tired after a class that did the most work and therefore is learning more. So I think if we focus our classroom time on students actually doing something with content, with skills, knowledge, they're actually doing things, using creativity to create things, solving problems, maybe a project-based learning approach. If we do that, the motivation is going to go up because school's interesting now. I'm doing something. Now, if we take it even one step further and we say, here's our overarching, goal that we need to learn. It could be a concept, could be content area. Underneath that, I want you to choose what you're interested in. And if you give choice to the student, then the student is already intrinsically, internally motivated because they chose that. That's what they're interested in. And then they can learn because the motivation is there, because they got to choose it. So I think creativity, motivation, they all work hand in hand. And also the type of environment that we create for students. And one of the ways to help motivate students, we are all aware of, because is technology. Information communication technology is huge because kids are more motivated when they have technology. Now, yes, they can also be more distracted, but that all depends on how the teacher sets up the classroom. Okay, so if the ITC is there, and obviously one of the things that it does increase is student motivation. Students seem to be a little bit more engrossed, engaged when there's a computer and they're doing something on it. See, again, it's them doing, right? This is not the computer sitting there and someone's talking to them on the computer. That can also, I don't believe that there's a big difference between, knowledge, like delivery. I think you could deliver knowledge through lecture. You could deliver knowledge through a book. You could deliver knowledge through a computer, reading a blog post. You could deliver it through video. I mean, there's lots of ways to deliver knowledge. And I don't think ways differ much. I think if you look at the research over the last 20, 30 years, you'll see, if you even search no significant difference, you'll see that the delivery method really doesn't make a difference in student learning. So what does ICT need to do in order to make a difference in the classroom? Well, it needs to be used as more than just a $2,000 worksheet. It needs to be used to help solve problems. It needs to be used to help students collaborate. It needs to be used to help students create. And creating in electronic forms is fantastic. There are so many options. Students can create web pages. They can create blog posts. They can create podcasts. They can create videos. They can create animations. They can create posters. They can create digital stories. There's so many things, music, raps, all of this stuff that used to take a lot of money and a lot of time to create is now possible on one device. And in fact, a lot of it's possible on the device that many of them have in their pocket, their smartphone. So my thought is that we need to look at technology and use it in a different way. Right now, all we've done is we've technified certain lessons, but we're not changing the way technology is being used. It's being used to replace, to augment something that was done before. So students instead, so for example, there's something called Quizlet, and basically it's online flashcards. So the student creates their flashcard and they use the online flashcard to study for a test. That is not improving anything. In fact, that's just technifying an old and, in my opinion, outdated pedagogical practice. You know, we memorize, spit out on a test, and we're done. We know. And I'm going to say probably 95% of the time after that kind of learning, you forget. I know that I can give you an example. When I was in college, I went to a botany class, and it was that type of learning environment. You sat there, the professor was up there lecturing. He had he had shared printouts of his slide presentation that we could take notes on. We had 2 quizzes, a midterm, and a final exam. That's it. There was no creativity. There's no presentations. There was no way for students to use the content that he was delivering to us in a meaningful way. There was nothing. Just take notes, memorize, take a test. And I can tell you, I don't remember a single thing from that class. I got an A in that class because I'm good at playing that educational game, but I didn't learn anything from that class, except for possibly how not to teach. And I don't want to, disrespect the professor, but that kind of system of learning is not real learning. It's old, it's outdated. We don't need that anymore. We need to be able to know how to learn. Students need to know how to learn. And I can say that my experience with online education started when I took my master's degree. I took my master's degree in educational technology from Boise State University, and it was an entirely online format. I never had to go to the campus. All my classes were conducted online using a learning management system with a forum discussion boards, and we created things all the time. And I think COVID-19 has forced a lot of schools into this online learning realm. My school, same. I work at Hawaii Preparatory Academy in Hawaii, on the Big Island of Hawaii, and we're a private school, international boarding private school. We boarding in the high school, but we also have which is grades 9 through 12 in the American system. And then we have lower school and middle school. Lower school starts at age 5 in kindergarten and goes up until age 10, grade 5. That's lower school. And then students enter middle school, 6, 7, and 8 grade. And we went from online courses the first part of the year, and then right after spring break, because of COVID, we were forced to go online. And it was difficult for our teachers at first because we didn't have the training. They didn't have the training. Luckily, I was here to support them. And so we were able to I was able to offer courses to the teachers a week before on things like Zoom and other platforms that we were using. Our school uses a learning management system by Blackbaud. We also, in the lower school, use Seesaw for schools, which is a learning journal, digital learning journal for students. So we had and we're also one-to-one. So in the lower school, we're one-to-one iPads. So grade kinder all the way up to grade 5, they all have their own iPads. That's provided by the school. And then grades 6 through 12, we're BYOD, which is bring your own device. So the school requires parents to purchase a device for their child. It can be anything from a Chromebook to a MacBook, depending on what the parents want to spend. And so basically all of our students had access. It wasn't a problem. Now that's not the case for the public school. You know, the public schools in Hawaii, that when this happened, a lot of them ended up closing. They didn't offer online because they don't have equal access. A lot of the kids at home didn't have computers. They didn't even have a Wi-Fi connection. So it all depends on, you know, the social economic status of the students and their parents, and that can have a big impact. I don't think online education is good for everyone because some people don't have the ability to connect online. So we have to take that into consideration when we look at schooling, you know, and what we offer. We have to consider all people, not just the people who can afford it. So I think online education is important, but I also think that, and it can be done very well. It all depends. You have to, you know, I just had a comment on a discussion that I was having with some people on Facebook, and one of the persons that commented said that the skill most needed for education today is that it has to be face-to-face and not online. And, you know, I understand why he's saying that. You know, online learning is a different thing. It makes connecting with the students easier. And the research will back this up. You know, the most impact in a classroom on student learning is nothing but the teacher's relationship with the student. That is the greatest impact. But as I said to this person, I have had fantastic online educational experiences. And it came down to the professor knowing how to create a meaningful online course and give us practice with the skills, with the content, making sure that we you know, communicated with each other as students through forum chats. You know, this a lot of times, and I'm going to say this because, you know, online classes are great, but in my experience, discussion in an online class is not as good, is not as deep, is not as meaningful as a discussion that happens in an online forum. And the reason I say that is because in an online, in a class, a regular face-to-face class, you've got people who dominate the talking. It's the people who aren't afraid to talk. They get up, they say stuff all the time, they raise their hands, they want to answer. And it might be, in a class of 30, it might be 3 to 5 people that are speaking the most. And the rest of the class is kind of just listening. And then the person who's afraid to talk never, ever gets have their say. Never. They never, because they're afraid, they don't want to. But when you have an online forum and you take that, the teacher requires that everyone has to make a comment or a post about whatever it is that you read or a video you watched or whatever, then that student's voice is heard, the one that you wouldn't have otherwise, because that person was shy. But in the online forum, they can either record their voice, they can type it, they can do a video. It's up to them how they do it. As long as their voice is heard, the teacher doesn't care, just that as long as they're participating. And not only that, then you also have that person that you didn't hear in the face-to-face environment add to the conversation. That's going to make a big difference on having multiple perspectives, which we have to look at things from multiple perspectives. We can't just hear things from our own and have people repeat the same thing and then assume that everybody thinks that. We need to hear from multiple perspectives to arrive at the truth. And what's really cool also about this is that if the teacher also requires that you not only make a post, but that you read and respond to others in a meaningful way, including information to back up what you're saying. This is going to also impact the quality of the discussion that's happening around the topic. Because in a face-to-face environment, all I can say is the stuff that I know in my head. But if somebody says something important in an online forum, I can go, oh, I never really thought about that. I can do research. I can find more information about that. And then I can add more deeply to that conversation because I can look up more and learn more. I end up learning more as a student in this process than just in a classroom discussion. And everyone learns more because everyone's a part of this process of making a first post and then reading others and commenting meaningfully. So the teacher has a major role in setting up an online environment where conversations can happen. And like I said, choose a tool. It can be done. You can use, there's a great podcasting in a classroom app called Synth that allows students or a teacher to just say, create a question, and then the students respond by voice or by typing. And then they can respond to each other by voice or by typing. It's fantastic. Flipgrid, another awesome tool where the students will record their face, video, and you record, and then the responses are also recorded. Or you can type. So there's tools out there that will support great classroom discussion, extending classroom discussions. I'm not saying like we always have to do online. What I'm saying is that technology, when used, it can be used to extend a classroom discussion. So you start in the classroom and then homework. So here comes homework again. More meaningful is go home, find out more information about what we were talking about and share it on this Flipgrid. And then listen to your fellow students and respond to them. That kind of homework is going to be way more effective in helping students learn than here's 100 math problems. Do those. So I think, to change from this anachronistic approach to education, we need to really realize that we are actually trying to create lifelong learners. That is what the goal is. We're not trying to get them to the next grade level. We're not trying to get them to the next schooling level. We're trying to develop in our students the ability to learn new things on their own, because the teachers aren't going to be around when they're in society, when they got jobs that don't exist yet, when they're trying to solve problems that we don't know are problems yet, because we can't help them do that. And they're not going to be able to call us up and go, hey, I got this problem. Can you help me? No, they have to learn the skills of lifelong learning in order to be people who contribute meaningfully to our ever-changing society.
Oh, yeah, you are totally right. In this case, I liked the part that you said that we are playing right now in some countries, we are playing the educational game, but we need to play the real life game.
Correct.
Okay. So, maybe we just focus on memorize in order to make tests, in order to get 100 points of the high, in this case, score that you may have. But we are not preparing for the real life society in this case. What I like what you said is that we increase the participation of the students. Why? Because as you mentioned, some of the students are afraid to talk, maybe in a real person, face-to-face education. But in this case, we, due to the platform, we have some ways in order to participate. In this case, could be through typing, could be through my voice, or even I can record my face.
Yep.
And in this case, we increase the participation of the students, and doing that, little by little, we increase the self-confidence of the student. So these are good aspects involved in all this online education. Also, you talk about that we have not all, but a big percentage of the people, that device which connect to the internet. In this case, we have smartphones.
Yep.
However, for example, here in Peru, as you know, the majority of people, maybe they don't have this kind of technological equipments.
Correct.
And the majority probably can access to a cell phone, but with not which is not a smartphone.
Right.
Okay. So in this case here, for example, we had some problems delivering all this online education.
Correct.
So also you talk about the platforms that you use. You mentioned that you used Blackboard.
Yeah.
In your university.
It's in my school. Yeah.
In your school. Okay. Right. So here, for example, in the university that I work, we just Google Classroom. In this case, the university pays for an institutional account, and all the students enter, in this case, to the platform, and in the schedule that the university has delivered to all the students, and we have the classes.
Yep.
Okay. So
we have some we're also a Google Apps or Google Suite school as well. And so we do have some teachers who have decided to use Google Classroom. It's a great tool.
Yeah. And we need to focus on the 21st century skills. So this is the most important part or about the anachronistic part. So what can you tell us, please, Dr. Shannon, about this aspect? For example, this is I consider this as the most important aspect, right? Because you know that if students find his or her real passion, the inside voice, that this profession is going to make me, in this case, if I choose the right profession, that I can reach the best version of me. So can you share with us what strategies, what in your country, in your system, what do you do in order to do this aspect, in order to get in order about how we can know the profession that the students can have for their future?
Sure. I would say, to be honest, that I would say most of our schooling in America doesn't do this really well. I think that we're starting to understand a little bit more about what really needs to happen. And one of the things that I think that's going to help students decide what they want to do in life, what their passion is by giving them a chance to do learning around that passion. I know that, my passion is education first and technology second, but a combination of the two. And I didn't know that I wanted to be an educator until I was 23 years old. That's far. I was out of school already. I had my first degree under my belt. I had no clue. And my first degree is a degree in liberal arts because I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life, because I had never been given an opportunity in all of my schooling to choose something I was interested in to learn about. And I think that if we give students the opportunity to choose the things that they're interested in to learn about, not only are we teaching them skills on how to learn, not only would we be increasing motivation to learn, not only would we be giving them a chance to use that motivation to be more creative and develop those skills, we would also be giving them a view into something that they're passionate about, and possibly how that could turn into a profession. So the way I'm looking at it is, again, schooling traditionally, even now, is we have come together and we have focused on a curriculum. We have a curriculum map, and we say that everyone needs to learn these things in order to be educated. But I think that's the wrong approach. Because if we do that, I can tell you, as a person who has gone to the highest level of education, I got my doctorate, I still, no matter what, I still have in my daily life have never used certain subjects that I've learned in school. Let's say beyond, say, 6th grade or 7th grade math. Okay, calculus, never used it. Okay, let's say biology. Now, I'm not saying we don't learn these things, but I've never used biology in my life. I never used certain science, chemistry, never used it. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't teach it. But what it means is that we need to rethink what everyone needs to learn. And does this system provide enough to get people into their professions? Or, I mean, I don't know about in Peru, but I know in America, a lot of students enter university and they may change their majors 3, 4, 5 times. Why? Because they don't know what they want to do yet. And they're wasting time and money in the system because they're uncertain about what they want. Why? Because our educational system has not given them a chance to do anything with their passions. And not only that, some of their passions could be something like video games or something like that. And then, we're told, or art, when we're told, that's not going to make you money. You can't do that. It's all about the money. Our system is based on making money rather than realizing that our society needs all types of jobs, not just ones that make lots of money. We need the artists. We need the performers. We need people who play games. We need people who play video games. And those are actually professions now. You've got esports, you've got video game testers, you've got, these are all things that didn't exist when I was in school. Our society is constantly changing. We don't know what kind of jobs are going to be out there. So I think it's more important that our educational system focus on our passions and what we're passionate about as learners. And maybe you don't start in kindergarten, that would be too soon. So what do you want to learn about today, Jimmy? That kind of thing might not work. But you get into the middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th, high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, you're talking between ages of, say, 13 to 19 or 18 or whatever. Those ages, I think, are perfect. And if we can give our students time, now I'm not saying we have to do all this, but if we can maybe give them, like a genius hour, a time where 10% of their school time is used on studying something that they're interested in, or, take on a more project-based learning type of curriculum where they get to make choices. The more choices we give students, I think the more chance that they're going to be able to find their passions will emerge. So I think we need to change the way we teach and the way we inspire students to learn by offering them a chance to do something with their passions. And that will help with that whole, well, what do I want to do with my life? Like I said, I didn't know until I was 23 that I wanted to be an educator. And it's because the system never gave me a chance to be an educator. It never gave me a chance to get up and make a presentation or, teach something that I was interested in to someone else. So I think that's where we have to go.
Yeah. Well, in this case, you had the chance to find, no, in this case, what is your real passion.
Yeah.
However, some people don't have that kind of opportunity, and they just walk through the life doing some things, but without passion, without dedication, and the productivity is low. And also, in doing that, for example, they suffer from stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of problems related to that. So our system doesn't address important issues. For example, I consider that one subject that needs to be taught in this case, for example, is about nourishment.
Yes.
And you tell us about, in this case, in your country, people receive this kind of education in the formal education, informal education, on the TV, on internet. What about the TV commercials? What about in this case the restaurants? Yeah, that maybe you can find in your society.
Uh-huh. So I would say that in America we have a problem. The people, the United States Department of Agriculture, these are the people who are responsible for developing, the dietary guidelines for our society. They are also the people who have an interest in helping agriculture, helping the farmers, helping the industries that provide various foods. So if you put these two things together, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a conflict of interest, because you're trying to help the people who support the food, but then you're also saying what we're supposed to eat. Now, if that's the case, then what about the information that we're given might not be the truth. It might not be that this is what's best for us to eat. It might be because they're trying to support that industry, because that's the people who they are supposed to support. And so they tell the American people, this is what you need to eat to be healthy. And in our schooling system, we have, health and wellness classes that follow these guidelines. And so we tell people, this is what you need to eat in order to be healthy. But the problem with that, again, is that there's a conflict of interest, because these dietary guidelines came from the same people who are basically the food industry. And all of our commercials are based on, it's all about money, to be honest. And so this is not about health. It's more about making money. And I think that's a problem of our society right now, is that money becomes the important aspect. And, eating certain foods we've been told is nourishing. I'm going to say, for example, let's go with dairy, go with milk. I myself am lactose intolerant. I cannot have milk. But according to the dietary guidelines, I'm supposed to have 3 servings of dairy a day to be healthy. So does that mean that I can't be healthy? No, of course not. So do those dietary guidelines actually mean anything? Maybe, maybe not. Is it really healthy? If you look at the population of America, 75% are lactose intolerant. So 75% of the people in America are told that they need to eat 3 servings of dairy every day in order to be healthy. But they're lactose intolerant. It's not healthy for them. So that's just one example. The commercials, of course, the companies that pay the most get to advertise the most. So what do we have? We have fast food, soda, processed cereals, sugar-loaded things, all on TV, all geared towards telling people that you need to eat this way. So to be honest, I think in education, we need to be lifelong learners. We need to teach our students to question everything and not just believe everything that's thrown at them and say, oh yeah, well, it was on TV or it's on the internet, so it has to be true. No, because, in independent search for the truth is important. And I think becoming a lifelong learner, we have to question things, research, and not only that, judge things, validate. Is this a reputable source? What types of conflicts of interest might exist? So I think we have to look at everything with a scrutinizing eye. Not that we don't trust, but that we're always in a search for truth.
Yeah, you are totally right. Here, for example, in our country, as well, the majority of people know, we have some percentage of people due to economical issues, they don't nourish, they don't eat, in this case, healthy food.
Yeah.
They just eat carbohydrates, because they are cheap, and we have lack of vitamins, of minerals.
Yeah.
And this causes a problem called anemia, right?
Yes.
This is the word anemia.
Yeah.
So this is a big problem, because that this problem is direct related to the learning capacity of our brain.
Correct.
So this is suddenly this is a big problem.
Yep.
We have here. And in order to finish, before finishing, can you share with our audience, please, about the money, the costs, maybe the amount that your system, government, invest in education, in all the politics, in the infrastructure, in not just the physical infrastructure, in this case, the internet infrastructure, right? Because as you told us, in the public education, one of the big issues is that the majority don't have access, right, to good speed of internet. Because here in Peru, for example, we have a big percentage of the people has internet access, but the speed is too low. So when they enter to the platform, in this case, for example, Google Meet, they can visualize the videos correctly. So can you share with us, please, about the amount of money, about all about the investment that maybe your government or the educational systems make, right, in your society, please?
Sure. So, the United States will always say that they spend a lot of money on education. And if you look at the numbers, it does appear to be a lot of money. In 2019, I think they requested about $59 billion or something, which was actually a decrease by, I think, close to 12% from the year before. $59 billion seems like a lot of money. If you look at, say, I can give you some numbers, but say in Hawaii, total spending per student per year might be around $13,000 per student. And that would include all spending, infrastructure, the instructional, technology, all of that. But if you look at these numbers, you go, oh, that's, $13,000 a year. That's a lot of money to be spending on a student. But if you take into consideration the costs of education, and you still take into consideration that most educators are paid very low. There's this program where the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies came to a school to shadow a principal or a school administrator. And they shadowed this administrator. And at lunchtime, one of the CEOs asked the principal, "How much money do you make?" And the principal told him, and he said, "Wow, in the first 4 hours of your day, you've done more work than I normally do in a week. And I get paid 4 times more than you." So if you look at an educational system and what a government is spending on education, even though America is spending close to $60 billion a year, if you compare that to how much money they're spending on war, on weapons, on almost anything else, it's nothing. It's a drop in a bucket. We don't, as a society, I don't think, place enough importance on the education of our next generation. If we want to solve our educational problems, we want to solve our societal problems, it's through education that's going to help them. Education is a way to improve society. And we don't place a lot of, importance on that. In America, we have this old saying, which I personally don't think is true, but it goes like this: those who can't teach. Basically, if you can't perform in the business world or in the real world, then you're going to become a teacher, and you're going to teach that subject because you can't do anything else with that. And I would ask those people, how did you get where you were? How did you learn? Well, it's probably through a teacher. There's probably a teacher that motivated you. There's probably that one teacher that showed they cared about you, that made you fall in love with whatever it is you're doing. So I think, we do spend a lot of money. When you look at the numbers, it seems like it's a lot of money. But, everything is, it all depends on what you're comparing it to. And do we really need to spend that? Let's just make one less I don't know, aircraft carrier or one less atomic submarine, and put that money towards education, then we'll have another, I don't know, $16 billion or whatever it costs. So I just think that there's not enough. I think our society, and I think a lot of societies around the world, don't spend enough towards education. I would say that there are some people, some societies where they do. And you can see, look at Sweden, other countries that have fantastic educational systems. The school starts later. They don't have as much homework. Teachers are paid more. Kids go to school, I think they start later too. I think they only go to school until they're 7. You look at all of these things, and then you look at the systems we have, and you compare their performance, and they're doing better. That doesn't make any sense. You would think, well, we start earlier, we're in school longer, we homework, and of course we're gonna perform better, but we don't. There has to be a reason. And I think it's because of the way society views teachers. I lived in China for 15 years of my life. And I can tell you that teachers are looked at differently in China. They're given respect. They are given respect, so much respect, that they won't call you by your name. They'll call you teacher and your name. It's like a title. And parents will listen to the teacher. When they have a question about their child, the teacher says something, the parent takes it to heart. And they want to do a different thing. Rather than now in America, you've got some parents who are trying to sue the school and sue teachers because their child got a bad grade. So really, we really need to think about how our society views education, how our government views education, how much importance they put on it. But also, this goes back to the parent informing the person and the role of the parent. The parent needs to realize that education is not something that's done to you, done to their child. Education is something that a student or even a parent or everyone has to take on. It's a responsibility. If we really want to learn something, I have to make an effort. I can't just have someone throw knowledge at me or sleep with a book underneath my pillow. That's not going to teach me anything. I have to make an effort to learn. And so I think attitude and the way we look at education, the way we look at teaching, the way we look at our systems that are in place, there has to be some kind of reform because we have to do things better. I don't know about in Peru, but we definitely don't spend enough here in America.
Yeah. One of the best professions of the world is education because we have the chance, the opportunity to change lives.
Yeah.
We form people, and as you told us, you tell about China. In this case, in China, they give a best image of the teacher. In this case. And so this is good. Why? Because here, for example, in Peru, the society doesn't have a good image of a teacher. Right. Also, the government through the payment is bad. The amount of money that a teacher can receive due to his or her work is really low. This is sad. This is a big problem, and we have we need to change all this stuff, all these problems, in order to have a better society.
Yes.
So we need to act. Well, so I would like to thank you for your time, for your interest in helping people here in my country through education.
Mm.
We are so pleased that you in this case, no, you are here in front of
Hmm.
us.
Yes.
You right now in you are from what city of Hawaii? In which part are you?
Okay, so I live on the there's major islands. Yeah, there's like 5 major islands. I live on the biggest island of Hawaii, and I live in a small town of about 9,000 people, and it's called uh, Kamuela.
Okay, so again, thank you, Dr. Shannon Doak, for your time, for being here in front of our students. It's a real pleasure for me, for all our audience, that
Mm.
gain a lot because you mentioned some important vital aspects about education. Uh, you had you have a lot of knowledge because you work on that. Here in Peru, due to the pandemic, we were forced to enter to this online education because in the last year, for example, internet the students use for playing in this case, yeah, some video games. But as you know, right now, all the people is connected. They are doing some works
Yep.
through internet, and we as a society we need to think differently. We need to change some aspects, some thoughts that we have about education.
Correct.
um, Also our talk is gonna be um, is gonna be listened by directors of
Mm.
public sectors,
Great.
public schools. And in order to finish, before I finish, before finishing, I would like you to say some words to all these directors, in this case, that are going to watch this presentation.
Mhm.
What can you tell them in order that they can change their minds, they can change the way how they think about technology, about the importance of teacher doing this work? Because you know that this virtual world is more complicated, because you know that teacher needs to prepare some materials, needs to prepare some videos, audios, and it demands a lot of time. Yeah, because when you are in face-to-face education, you go and you are in front of your students and you can talk.
Yeah.
But in this online education, they require more time, more knowledge, because that teachers are facing new skills. They are facing new problems because they need new skills related to this way how to prepare videos materials. And
Yes.
before finishing, I would like you to what can you say to all these directors that are watching us?
So it's important, I think, for the directors, any kind of administrators, to understand, like what you were saying, that creating online classes is very time consuming, and requiring teachers to throw things together quickly is not really going to impact student learning the best. And I think that it should be done um, in a way, make sure that you give enough time, that you, because if you don't, you're just going to stress out your teachers. um, i I worked with teachers in my school. It was a very stressful time. The first 2 weeks of our online transition, very stressful. Lots of teachers. It started right when we went on spring break. I would say that 99% of our educators did not get a spring break. They were busy creating their online lessons. And our administration, being, very understanding, understood this, and we ended our schooling a week before that we were supposed to, and gave the teachers the much needed break. I think it's important for our administrators to realize that it is not possible to take a face-to-face class and put it online. That doesn't work. Online learning is a different beast. It's a different method, and creating, like you said, creating these videos, creating activities for students to take part in, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And administrators, please be understanding of this and give your teachers time to do it right, because ultimately I think we all want what's best for our students.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shannon Doak. I think that we are going to have more chances to talk about these aspects about education.
Sure.
You know, here in Peru we have a lot of biodiversity. We have a lot of areas. We have a lot of culture. We have the majority of people around the world knows Peru just for Machu Picchu and
Right.
for the food.
Yeah.
Or what else can you know or do you know about Peru?
You know, to be honest, I don't know much, like you said.
Yeah.
Those things, yeah?
The majority of people, when they refer about Peru, they say, oh, Peru, yeah, Machu Picchu, maybe the Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the
good food.
Amazon.
Yeah.
And the food, about maybe the ceviche. Did you taste, did you have the chance to taste ceviche?
I did, yes.
Okay, but a ceviche made by a Peruvian, or another person?
It was by someone else, so I don't think it was authentic.
Okay, so well, here in Peru we have a lot of biodiversity. We have a lot of climates, which give us a lot of food, which are totally good for our health, for our immunological system. And I know that we are going to have more chances in order to talk about that. Also, we can share with you, with your community. Here we have a lot of students, a lot of, in this case, subjects that I can show you. Or with my students, with all the professors, we can share with you. And even we can talk about food, right? Because my sister, in this case, she is the person who prepares food, the profession. What's that name?
She's a chef?
Yes, she's a chef. And with her, we have some dishes that we can share with you.
Great.
In order that you can learn, you can show to your community. And we are open to work. In this case, I represent to the University of Huánuco, as I told you, which is located in the middle of Peru. And I am sure that, as I noticed, that you are a proactive person, you are a good person, you want to share your knowledge. I'm really sure that we are gonna have some times in order to talk again, in order to talk about all these kind of aspects involved to the education, and also about all kinds or about all aspects of education, because here, for example, in Peru, the majority of people think that education is equal to math and language. But this is not right, because education involves arts, as you mentioned, music, arts. We have a lot of subjects, and let's organize, let's coordinate another time in order to talk about that. I know that we have some difference in our time.
Yes.
You right now, what time do you have?
It's 11:30.
Okay, so here is 4:30.
Right.
Okay, so
5 hours difference.
yeah.
Yeah, you're 5 hours ahead of me.
Okay, in China, this is a little complicated, right? Because they are a lot of hours in this case.
Yeah, where Hawaii and China is 18 hours difference.
Okay. So, again, thank you, Dr. Shannon Doak, for your time. It was a good interview. You mentioned a lot of key aspects about education. I am sure that all our viewers, all our audience are going to be glad. And thank you again.
Yes.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.